I'd like to call to order the May 27th meeting for the Lansing Charter Commission. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Adam Simon.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer. Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Dowd. Commissioner Jeffries.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Cooey. Commissioner Washington. There are 8 members present at quorum. I see Commissioner Lopez is in the back, so he will be here presently.
Thank you. There are no minutes to approve for our last meeting. They'll be presented to us next week. But there is a motion would be in order to adopt the agenda. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the agenda is adopted. Now is the time for public comment.
We have no members of the public wishing to speak.
Thank you. Under officer reports, I did send out to everybody some proposed language for the internal auditor position for your review. I think it's somewhere
It's right here.
here. Okay. All right. And there was also a change in one of our documents, page 42. There was a reprint of that, so subsection .10 was included in .9. It just separated those out. That change should be at your chair as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have. Madam Vice Chair.
No report.
City Clerk.
Just a financial update. To date, the commission has spent just under $224,000, leaving a remaining balance available of $276,000. And you have a detailed listing at your chair.
Thank you. Now's the time we'll get into some old business. 6A, Article 4, Executive Branch. We have folks from the City Attorney's Office here to answer questions. I don't know if you want to have a seat down here, stay back there, whatever you'd all like to do. Oh, okay. All right. I guess we're on page 2 of the agenda. There's the May 22nd memo. Page 4 is the March 28th memo that we had regarding the City Attorney's Office. And page 8 is the charter language that deals with the City Attorney's Office in Article 4. So I guess, Kristen, I'll turn this over to you at this point.
Thank you. So looking over page 2 and 3 contains some proposed language for the law department. It would be the city attorney's office, specifically how the city attorney is appointed or actually removed, which is some of the language you've already seen before, but this is some additional sort of input and review by both the city attorney, and I've reviewed it, and I agree with the language as well, so this is for your review. Looking at starting with point 6 on page 3, so it's inserting agency, just to be clear with consistency with terminology used throughout the charter, changing shall to may, employer retain special counsel, and then the city council may approve such special counsel only after receiving the city attorney's written opinion on the matter, as opposed to requesting. The idea being that they receive the opinion of the city attorney before acting on that matter. But then the sort of meat and potatoes into the additional sort of what to do in situations where there may be a conflict between two branches of city government. We see point 8 and point 9. So point 8 states, when the city council has received an opinion or advice of the city attorney on a matter and concludes that there is a conflict of interest between the city council and another branch of government, and that's determined by a 2/3 vote of majority of city council. So the city council votes that there is a conflict. At that point, the city council has the authority to retain special legal counsel to represent city council in the matter. But then the special counsel put some requirements on there, has to be licensed in Michigan and shall not represent the city as a municipal corporation in any legal proceedings. Again, we think it's important to clarify that the city attorney is representing the city as a municipal corporate entity. This is a situation where there is a conflict between, for example, the mayor or city council as to, execution of their duties. And then in terms of removal of the city attorney, language is the city attorney may be suspended or removed by the mayor, which is already the status quo. Addition is or by a vote of 2/3 of city council members serving. Notice of that action must be filed with the city clerk. A suspension or removal of city council is subject to veto by the mayor as provided in the general veto provision. And I highlighted this for additional discussion, the section except section 3-305.3 shall not apply. And then a suspension or removal by the mayor is subject to veto by city council. The reason that why I highlighted the except section 3-305.3 shall not apply is the clerk raised the issue to me that when I originally drafted that language in there, the idea was that the mayor could remove and then city council could veto that. And then the idea is that because you already had the city council voting by a 2/3 vote to remove the city attorney, if the mayor vetoes, then the normal language for veto would then go back to the city council by another 2/3 vote. And so the idea is, well, do you have a 2/3 vote voting again? But as the city clerk pointed out, oftentimes the discussion at a veto is not the same as the original decision. So it could still be appropriate to leave that sort of veto override in there. Again, it's up to you to sort of decide whether that's appropriate in this instance. But otherwise, I also, just for your additional review, left in our prior memo that provided some examples of this sort of conflict or hiring of special counsel discussion that we previously had, as well as some examples from other cities as to what they have in their charter.
I'm sorry, just wanted to clarify. I understand that this, there's been a discussion with the city attorney's office on these changes, and is this something that everybody came together in terms of coming to the same conclusion about the language, things like that? Are there any concerns from the city attorney's office?
No. I had a good conversation with Attorney Rewa about this, back and forth on both the language for removal of the city attorney. I mean, I'd spoken previously before this body and talked about potentially more due process, and we had a good conversation about how that doesn't really make sense in the greater context of this. And so I don't think there's a need for that necessarily. But as it relates to outside counsel, in looking at the rest of, and when we left, you had asked, do you have any other comments or observations as it relates to the section 4-304? And I said no, but then in looking at it and really trying to add that provision to get outside counsel as determined by the city council, rather than changing point 6, I think it makes sense to clarify point 6 and then add the point 8 and make it more robust. And so that's what this represents.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boyd.
I have a couple of questions. First, can you better explain point 9? You mentioned that it included some existing language, but then added to it language. Did I hear you right?
I just wanted to clarify that as it currently stands, the city attorney can be removed by the mayor.
Okay.
That's the current. And then, so the current status quo is that the mayor hires and fires the city attorney.
Okay.
And then the charter states that the city council could, by a 2/3 vote, sort of override that removal if they determine it's in the best interest to have that department head remain employed with the city. So that's the current status quo. The idea with point 9 is drafting this ability for either the mayor or city council to be able to make that additional action to remove or suspend the city attorney, but that the other branch has the same opportunity to sort of veto that determination.
So the suspension or removal by city council is subject to a veto by the mayor,
Correct.
but the mayor's veto is not, well, the council could by virtue of a two-thirds vote, veto what the mayor is doing.
Correct.
Okay. The
And
other
then,
que-
yeah, and then they could, so if the city council removes, if the city council takes the initial action, passes a resolution to remove the city attorney, the mayor could then veto that. Now, under the normal veto rules, the city council could then override that veto. And that's what the highlighted language is the discussion about whether to keep that standard sort of council override of a mayoral veto in this instance or not.
Okay. And then the other question I have, which was the question that I think we talked about a long time ago. It still sticks in my mind that at one point the city council hired outside counsel and wasn't able to pay them because there was no provision in the budget to do that, and nobody wanted to pay them, and so they didn't get paid. I don't see anything in here that says not only can they hire, but it has to be paid.
There is no provision in here that says that it has to be paid for. There's very few sections, I've not seen any language like that in any city charter. What the language changes do is it clarifies what I think was already implicit in the charter, is that the city council already had this ability, but this says city council may obtain and has the authority to retain special legal counsel.
Okay,
And by
so-
having that authority to do that, that would mean that they are acting within the scope of their authority, and no one can say, well, you didn't have the authority to do that, so we're not going to pay them.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Other questions? Chris and I did have a question. On that same .9, the section, where it talks about, and council is provided in section 4-401.5, can the mayor veto that decision? Is that that would be by resolution. So can the mayor veto that?
Let me see. Notice of action. So no, it would be, so if the mayor is the one that removes, city council could veto that, and it would not come back to the mayor to override that veto. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it was just confusing when you read that. It's an action that typically I thought you could veto, but okay, I get it. All right, so in terms of our work tonight, we've got to go through Article 4, which is section where it says Office of City Attorney, that there's a request to amend to make it Office of the City Attorney. Is there a motion for that?
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 1. It's been moved and supported. Commissioner Washington.
Why does it say may be appointed by the mayor and not shall be? Who else is going to appoint the attorney?
Technically, a city attorney is not required officer under the Home Rule Cities Act. You could potentially not have a city attorney.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 2. Eight, and you can also follow on page 3 of the memo. Those are the sections that have the requested amendments. Point 2, is there a motion to support? Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 3.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 4. It's been moved.
Second.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 5.
So moved.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 6. If you look,
I'll
there's
move to
sorry, go ahead.
I'll move to, a motion to move that with the proposed changes in the memo.
Second.
I couldn't get the words out.
Does everybody see that? That's on page 3.
The language is different.
Yep. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes as amended. Point 7.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 8. This is new language. It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 9.
So moved.
It's moved and supported.
Just to clarify, with or without the highlighted part?
I
I
think.
was doing with the highlighted part.
With the
with-
highlighted part?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as proposed language.
Commissioner Washington.
Um, Point 8 is on.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
So, the way this is worded, 2/3 council can do the resolution to suspend or remove the city attorney, and the mayor can veto it, and then that's the end of it.
So if the city council moves to remove, the mayor can veto, but city council can override that veto, just like they can with any other mayoral veto.
So, except for section 305 shall not apply.
And then, if you keep the except section 3-305 shall not apply, then they would not be able to do that normal override. It would just, city council could veto, city council could act, mayor could veto, that's the end of it.
But if we leave it, then they could veto they could override his veto.
If you want the ability for city council to override his veto, then you need to strike except section 3-305 shall not apply.
Okay, because otherwise what we have is what we have, and that's the mayor hires and fires. The mayor, if they can't override his veto, he holds it in his hand.
Remember, this is only if it kind of depends on who acts first. So if city council moves first and says, we are removing, the mayor could veto that.
Right.
And then.
Can't override that veto.
And then if you leave except section 3-305 shall not apply, then correct, the mayor could not override that veto.
Council.
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. The council could
I
not
know
override.
what you were saying.
So again, that's only if that's in the situation if the council acts first. And then the next sentence is if the mayor acts first, then the mayor can be overridden by the council.
Okay, so what you all just moved is with this in it.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't approve that at all.
Mr. City Attorney.
I was only going to clarify the existing language, and it's in a different section, but presently, if the mayor moves to remove any department head, including the city attorney, the council can, by a 2/3 majority, reverse that decision and essentially save that person, override. And then if they, by a 2/3 vote, and this is present language for all department heads, if they take such an action, the mayor cannot veto that action. And so then adding in the except council's override of mayor's veto of council's determination to fire the city attorney. By removing that, it's making it reciprocal, or it's the same for each potential actor.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
So if the mayor vetoes what council resolution, it's done. It's vetoed. They stay.
Just for this provision, because presently, if the mayor moves to fire someone, the council can say, you can't do that, and the mayor has no recourse. The mayor cannot veto that action, presently. But that's if the mayor's acting first.
Mr. Chair, I'm curious why Commissioner Washington doesn't like it. Would you share?
Because I already don't like the fact that the mayor hires the city attorney and the mayor fires the city attorney. If the city council does not think the city attorney, not Greg, Greg's fine, but we've had some pretty bad city attorneys. So if the city attorney, council does a 2/3 vote to release the city attorney And I'm thinking in the future, we will not always have Greg, and I think we get really nearsighted in what we're doing here. So city council, the mayor hires the city attorney. Clearly, they like him. Council's not happy. They go to remove him. The mayor vetoes it. The mayor still has the same power he has now. He hires and he can fire, period.
But as I understand this, though, this provision as written with that additional language in there is reciprocal. It's the same. Each party has the same ability to do this. You're not getting, one party does not get advantage over another party. This was completely fair. And so, well, you can,
You all
but
can pass it,
that's
I
the actual, in actuality, it's a reciprocal agreement and shared power. Commissioner Boyd.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. So the city council can vote by 2/3 majority to remove the city attorney, and the mayor can veto that. And then there's no provision for the city council to go back and make another change.
Correct, as written here, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
So the highlighted, except section 305.3 shall not apply. If we take that out of there, then the council could then override the mayor's veto. So
But-
is the motion,
Yeah, but but on the other hand, the mayor cannot override the councils.
right,
In the next section, next
Right.
language.
right.
So you have one party that can override the other one. In this case, both parties can't override anyone. But now you're going to create a section that allows one party to override another party. Should be fair, both. Yeah.
Well, my thought is that really the city attorney is so unlike any other position in the city. And that's where, whenever there's been conflict, it's because the position of the city attorney. And that's why people wanted city attorney to be an elected official as well. So I would accept and vote for taking that highlighted area, and I don't think it's going to happen a lot, and maybe it won't happen at all. But it's there for council to use if they so wish. I mean, they have other powers that they don't use anyway, but, so that would be the one that they would be there to give the council the ability to override a veto.
Commissioner Wash.
I am really tiring of the narrative that council doesn't do their job, and I really wish it would stop. You can roll your eyes all you want.
I will.
Continue.
I will.
But you know what? Enough.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, enough with you.
Yeah,
I didn't say they didn't do their job.
come on, let's,
If I may, I didn't say they didn't do their job. I said they didn't use the tools they have
Exactly.
available
All
to
right.
them. So, and their job is whatever it is.
okay, we have a motion in front of us.
Does it include that
Commissioner Haynes.
section? Just to be clear on my mind.
I'm sorry?
The motion is to include this highlighted section?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
I just have a question about like actual process. So if the mayor vetoes council's resolution, even though they can't override it, can they do another resolution, or are they required to just be done? And is there like a time frame in which they have to wait to do the same resolution again?
Sorry.
I don't think there's anything that would in here that's prohibiting that, but I think the reality is that, how many times do you want to do that?
No, I get that, but I'm just wondering, just
No, there's no
from a stance of like, I'm on city council, what are the avenues that I can take
Yeah.
to actually get this done? If it's something that we really believe needs to be done, can we put forth another resolution? And is there a time period that we have to wait to do that again? Like, what does that actually look like in real time?
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is we're getting into the deep fringes of nerd parliamentary law stuff. I've had this conversation with Clerk Swope. I've had it with Deputy Chief Deputy City Attorney Hagan Lawrence sitting next to me. The short answer is there's not a hard and fast rule anywhere. Mostly it comes down to either if a body has specific rules on the topic, or depending upon whether the body has adopted Mason's or Robert's Rules of Order, there are certain prohibitions on timing and such. But motions like this, where the no vote does not either terminate a cause of action or create a cause of action, which is what we're talking about, there's no real limit on how many times the motion can be brought or the resolution can be brought, other than the tolerance of the body. And, you know, the legislature is very powerful when it is acting as the legislature. And so if they want to hear the same, if somebody wants to bring it over and over again, at a certain point, if it either is vetoed repeatedly or fails repeatedly, the presiding officer may say, you know, I'm not hearing this anymore, and just table it indefinitely. I will say, for the benefit of anybody listening, if I'm the city attorney and I'm the recipient of more than one 2/3 majority vote to axe me, and I have to be saved by the mayor, like, would that I be the belle of the ball that everybody wants to talk about so much, but I don't think I would be sticking around for very much longer, just as me. But I can't speak for all future city attorneys.
I think that's helpful, and I only say that, and I understand all points. I just want to say that I think that everyone is making valid points, but I think that, you know, this obviously requires 2/3 votes of city council, and so if they're able to bring it forward again and have 2/3 of council supporting that, I think that says a lot, even without requiring like the override. And so I bring that up as just an option, an avenue, another tool, right, that city council could use. And I would hope that like whoever's mayor, if city council, like 2/3 of city council keep saying this about my staff, I would hope at some point they listen, right? And they don't have to, obviously. And I think too, like the public seeing that, I just think that there's a lot of things that go into that process. And if they're able to bring it forth again, I don't see the highlighted portion staying in here as harmful, because I think that they still would have options. It just would take a little longer.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Washington.
No.
Commissioner Adams Simon.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer. Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Dowd.
Yes.
Commissioner Jeffries.
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Kui.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
Passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Don't leave.
All right. Moving on to Article 2. It's on page 9. It's the memo. And then the article itself begins on page 22. So I'd ask our attorney to please start your review on the memo.
All right,
And if I could, I'm sorry. The other information you may want to look at on page 22 is a listing of all of the sections in Article 2 that we're going to be dealing with. Emery prepared this for us. Also behind that is the articles, specific articles that reference that. And you can go to page 13, which is the actual Article 2, and we can work off that as well. So either one you want. Okay.
So what I did is I looked at the memo that Emery prepared on page 22 and just reviewed the outstanding items within Article 2 to see if there were sort of any additional issues that needed to be raised for the board. So the first, the issue, as Emery explained, is as you all were reviewing these, it kind of switched from going like chapter by chapter to section by section. So all of these items within here had not gotten that approval section by section. So the first one that needs your decision on is 2-105 bonds of officers. So if you look at page 14, bonds of officers, point 1, 2, and 3 are all provided on there. And it's very common to have this language in here, and we recommend leaving it as written. We see no legal issues with it. I don't know if you want to look at these piece by piece or do this all at once.
I don't think there's a lot in, why don't we do them all at once? I'll let you get through
Okay.
your list.
All right, I'll do at least until I get to something that I
Okay.
have to get into some more detail about. So 2-105, bonds of officers, we didn't see any, again, it's very common, we recommend leaving it. 2-106 is another very common provision you find in charters, it's stating what the actual oath of office is. We recommend leaving it as is. 2-201, which you'll find at page 23. It's time of elections. This is a required provision, the time and manner of elections. This is a good, just general reference to state law. We recommend leaving this one as is.
Commissioner Anderson, I'm sorry, Commissioner Anderson and then Commissioner Boyd.
I brought this up before, like a long time ago, about whether we do elections in even years or odd years, and I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else in the charter, and so I don't know if this is the appropriate place to have that conversation, and what that looks like.
I'll ask our attorney to respond to that, please.
So in terms of what 2-201, where am I at? Flipping through pages. I would leave this provision as is, but in terms of when the elections occur, I think that would need to be in a separate section. So as it stands, we have that, I'm trying to find where there's reference to it happening on an odd year, because that is provided in a section of the charter. I'm just trying to find it. So, for example, if you look at page 13, 2-101 elective officers, point 3, that gets into some reference to it being in odd years. So if you were wanting it to be in even years, I think this would be a section that would need to be looked at for further review and modification for that. And then I'd have to go through Article 2 to see if there are any other provisions, but I think that would probably be the area where a rework would have to happen if that's where you all wanted to go with that.
Commissioner Boyd?
My comments were much like Commissioner Anderson's, to be honest. But under state law, municipalities have elections in odd years, correct? I mean, because we're saying in Chapter 2, 201, time of elections, the primary and general elections for all city offices shall be at the time provided by state law.
So primary and general means time of the year, not whether it's an odd or even year. So primary.
State law is silent on it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe, I'd have to double check, but I don't believe that it's mandated by state law whether it's odd or even.
Well, we
Because
should check.
Because it can be either.
I got that.
Yeah.
I got that. But because it says state law, we should know what it is. Secondly, we have already, as a commission, and correct me if I'm wrong, said that we will elect all the members of the council in 1 year, in 2029, in an odd year. I mean, we're not gonna parse it out and have 2 at large and 2 wards. Everybody will be elected, everybody will be on the ballot in 2029.
Yeah, the, switching away from staggered elections,
Correct.
yes, yes.
Correct, so we've dealt with that, and what you're telling us is that by virtue of 2-101.3, we're staying to the odd year, because it's 2029.
No, so time of elections, primary and general elections, this is at the time provided in state law, so that is the calendar year, because elections happen every year. So it's, the primary happens in August, the general happens in November.
Right,
And there's a
but
whole,
we say beginning in 2029.
yes, in 2-101.3, correct. That is just dealing with transitioning away from staggered elections to non-staggered.
Correct. But someone could read that to say, we're going to stay with the odd year.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely staying with the odd year. I mean, if you're going to want to, so if, there's sort of two election issues, it sounds like you all are talking about right now. So first is whether it's staggered or not, which there had already been a vote in
We've already
December to
decided
change
that.
here.
We're gonna
But if you
them all
want
at one
to,
time.
yeah, but if you want to switch to even number years, that's a different discussion.
Right.
And that's another bigger issue that will actually impact some of the other discussions in here, that we would need, I guess I would need some guidance if that's where you all want to go, because we're going to have to review this and make sure we catch all provisions that may be impacted by
Okay,
that.
so right now, as is, as this memo tells us, it's an odd election year.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
I don't speak for the body, obviously, but I would like to move forward with exploring moving our elections to even years. Multiple reasons, actually. One is there'll be a huge cost savings because we'll move to when state and federal elections are happening, or national elections. And so we're not doing separate elections on the odd years when we're already doing, we have to do elections on the even years. Right. So cost savings for one, and then two, we have a way larger turnout for even year elections. And so the thought process behind that is more engagement, right? More citizen engagement with our local elections, making sure more people come out and are educated about what's happening locally in our community. So yeah, those would be like my two biggest reasons for wanting to explore that further.
Commissioner Bauer.
And I think the downside, and I don't really know how I feel about this yet, because I'd have to hear pros and cons. I think the reason we probably started that years ago the flip side is exactly what you said. So I think I've just heard in different places people bring this up from the public. Go to even years. Usually it's cost savings and turnout. So I think we should
Commissioner Boyd.
revisit it as an issue.
I have the advantage of having worked for the Secretary of State's office and having dealt with election issues for a long time. Yes, we would save money, but we're going to save money anyway by going to electing everybody all at once as opposed to having staggered elections. And based on what the clerk has told us, we're not talking all that much money in terms of savings. And he can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But in terms of turnout, yes, you might get more turnout in an even year, but you have a lot of ballot fall off. You can ask anybody who's down the ballot, whether it's the MSU Board of Trustees, the U of M Regents, the Supreme Court. Yes, more people come out, but more people fall off. And so that doesn't equate, more turnout doesn't equate. And I think that you do have more attention to a local election. We all wonder why people don't vote. I can remember multiple secretaries of state would launch campaigns to get more people to vote, and we're like, we don't really want those people to vote. Sorry. At any rate, I would, at this point, I would be supporting staying as is in an odd year. Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
Just for clarity, sorry. When you say we don't want those people to vote, like, what does that mean?
Oh, I say that in jest, partly, and I'm sure all the people who are watching will say, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? But we used to say that just because people aren't informed. You don't want people voting who aren't informed. You want people voting who are informed, who pay attention, who read articles, who interview candidates, who know what's going on. And I think we can all agree on that. I make that comment in jest, knowing that we might get more people to vote, but they might not be people who are paying attention.
Other comments? I'm sorry, Commissioner Dowd.
No, I would agree with you, Commissioner Anderson. I do think it's worth exploring this and trying to see get some feedback to us to make a more informed decision. I think these are obvious reasons, as we've all heard. Those are the two main ones. But I would absolutely be in support of doing a little more research on that. And
Okay, Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, I'd like to hear more from the city clerk on that issue as well, as we look into, maybe not now, but as we explore that. But you can speak to it if you want.
If
We
I,
got one more meeting.
yeah, if I could remind everybody, we're coming down to one meeting here, so there's not a lot of time left. And hopefully, we're going to try to push it there, but we'll see if we can get through this. I don't know. That was the goal. So,
No, the clerk was going to speak.
go ahead. Mr. Clerk.
So the Michigan election law does allow cities to move from odd year to even year. It's very specific that once a city moves to an even year, they can never go back under current Michigan law. So this is a permanent decision to eliminate the odd year elections. An election, we do, because of the anticipated turnout, we do consolidation of elections. So city election is much less expensive than a state election. But Commissioner Anderson is absolutely correct. We would save the cost of that if we went to an even year election. We do with having additional candidates, if you've ever voted in an even year election, you might notice that the ballot is quite full. And there have been cities that have been pushed to 2 pages of ballots, which does also create a cost and a complication. There are definitely pluses and minuses. I think it's, absolutely correct that more people would turn out in an even year. So that also means that your candidates are going to be spending probably 3 to 5 times as much, as well as on, if they are trying to do, that's just with mailing, if they're trying to do other media, TV, whatever, those pools of advertising are frequently already bought up by the bigger campaigns. So, the order of a ballot is partisan, nonpartisan, and then proposals. So, and the nonpartisan, which the city is, it goes in order of jurisdiction. So you've got your state Supreme Court, and then your smaller courts by jurisdiction, and then you've got your county. Well, those are under the partisan, but the city offices would be like way down. They would be before proposals, but they would be
Way down.
they would be pretty far down. So,
Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you. I wanted to hear from him.
Commissioner Washington?
I too would like to see it go to even years. And yes, the ballot may be longer, and frankly, I want everybody to vote, regardless of if I think they're informed or not. However, when we do it on off years, I believe we are missing 80+% of the people that are voting. What is it usually between 10 and 17% that shows up? Very, very few.
in a mayoral election, we can get 20, we've seen between 20 and 27,000 probably out of 85,000 registered voters, so.
But on the
that's
other
in
year,
mid-20s,
it's like nothing.
Right.
It's
And in
nothing,
the August primary, it's typically
very
10
low.
to 8 to 12,000.
Yes, so you get such a small percentage of people voting. And my other thing would be as far as the cost for the candidates, we could have dealt with that by having more wards, and they wouldn't have such a large district to campaign in. I said as far as the price to campaign for the council members, we could have remedied that by having more wards, and they would have smaller areas to campaign in, which would be much less costly than what they have now.
Commissioner Bauer.
So I'd ask the clerk, so if about 25,000, 7,000 vote for mayoral odd years, in even year elections, about what's the turnout?
Twice, more than twice that.
Okay.
More than twice that.
Well, what about down ballot?
I don't have statistics on that off the top of my head.
I mean, seriously, if you're going to take a serious look at this, you'd want to say, okay, in an off-year election, you get this percentage voting for the mayor, which would be the top race. But if you go to an even year and you are down ballot, then you're below the Supreme Court. So what percentage does the Supreme Court get? You know, do people stay with the ballot, and do they vote the whole ballot, or do they drop off? I don't know the answer to that.
I know people drop off. I do not know percents of drop off.
Other questions? Commissioner Anderson? No? Done? All right. I'm sorry. I was going to ask, Kristen, in terms of preparing for this and going through the rest of the charter to make sure everything gets covered, is that something that you're going to be able to do by next week?
I don't know. It's going to depend on what additional things we need to make changes to. But we'll certainly at least go through and identify what needs to be done and start that work.
All right, why don't you start on that, and then Clerk Swope, if you could put together some information on the ballot, or the vote, you know, particularly down ballot, looking at all that stuff, maybe, so we can get some information back to people. Commissioner Dowd?
I just want to state, I'm concerned that we're not putting time into this while we have the time now, and we're saying we have to do this in one more meeting. I feel like even tonight's agenda is a lot of information, and if we have more questions, I'm just concerned that we're saying we're out of time. We're not really out of time. Nothing says this has to happen in November. We've got another year. So that doesn't sit well with me. I feel like we're pushing, and I know a few of us even talked, we want to revisit the whole conversation about the board structure and talk about that. And as we go through the charter, and we said we want to look section by section to make sure we're all in agreement on those things. I think it's hard to say we got to get this done by next week.
Well, that was the goal. I mean, we set goals.
Right, for sure. I just don't want to not explore something that we come up with tonight.
I don't think we've done that, Commissioner Dowd. I think we've taken the time that we needed on all of this. I've not heard anybody say that. We're not taking the time to look at things that we need to do, and I would just recommend, in terms of if we're going to miss this November's election cycle, that only leaves 2 left. And realistically, you know, by the time, you're only going to get to do one of them, either the primary or the general the following year. So.
And I would just, to follow up with that, I think you're right, we will, but I think if we take the time to go through this more, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen social media come out recently. We've had, our city council president has said he will not support this charter. He's making well, I just am saying, like, we're going to be up against people that are going to campaign against, and I want to make sure we've done the time to be able to justify everything that we are doing, and I just have concerns about that.
Commissioner Cui.
There's always going to be people that are going to be against whatever we push down, whether it be one item, a single, plural, what have you. It is our obligation as a body to support what we have done here. And I think just how we had the meetings to find out what the community wanted, we should also have community meetings to push with the work that we have done. So one pony doesn't stop that show. So he can make that comment, what have you, what he says. But again, if we as a whole, or maybe not whole, majority, support the work that we have done, I think that should surpass the naysayers.
Commissioner Anderson.
I mean, I personally have concerns about the charter revisions that we've made. There are some that I'm really, really proud of and I'm excited about, and then there are others that I'm really, really concerned about. And something that I've been even thinking about over the past month is, do I support the things that we've done? Do I stand by this when we vote to send this to the governor? Like, am I personally going to vote yes or no? Because I don't know, honestly. There are some things in here that I just really don't support, like, and I'm just being honest, you know, and this is not like anything against anyone here in this space. It's just when I walk away from this dais, I have to stand in and support the work that I do, right? And so I want that to be on top of mind for everyone, is like, sure, that may be the council president and one pony doesn't stop the show, but I don't believe I'm the only one, or he's maybe the only one that feels this way, that there are some concerns of things that we have done or didn't do that just may not resonate.
Again, and I'm just speaking for you, what you just said, if you voted in your conscience, even though maybe the vote didn't go that way, you still stood up for your own principle, right?
Right.
So you're one of 9. We're all one of 9. And if the majority voted another way, hey, it didn't go my way. So it doesn't mean that you still support that part of the charter. But again, on that stance, it was something that you would have went the other way. But it's the body as a whole and the work we've done, to me, that's just negating what we've been doing for a year and a half. That's just all I'm saying. Okay.
Commissioner Washington.
Yeah, I'm that one, and enough of me. However, I will not support this going to the governor if it stays. There's just a couple points that I will die on that hill, and I will not support it going to the governor. And frankly, I won't support other people approving it either. A lot of it's really good, but there are some things that were critically important to me from what I heard from the public. It's not my personal opinion. And so frankly, I will, if it stays as it is, I will not vote for it to go to the governor, and I will not encourage anybody to vote for it.
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, I hear everything that everyone's saying this evening, and I believe you should vote your conscience and your passion. What people have approached this charter as a single issue. This charter is not a single issue, and a lot of people are saying, well, I won't vote for this if they don't change this part. And that they have a right to do that, and that's what President Cost was speaking to as well. But you have to understand, we are 9 different people with different lived experiences, bringing different expertise in different ways to this charter. We are here to build a consensus. Are we going to agree on everything? Absolutely not. I don't expect that. We're not that type of body. We have a right to vote our opinion. But I personally won't be a distraction to this committee. I personally will not be divisive on this committee. I will not disparage any of my fellow commissioners publicly, no matter what I think of them. So that's my opinion.
Kristen, in terms of timing, what is your, I mean, we've talked about the 3 months that's required. We're definitely past that. What is the drop dead date that we should just realize we're not going to get it done for this November and then shoot for, you know, special election or primary or the next general election after that?
So guidance from the Attorney General's office, and the Governor's office, as you all have talked about, once this body's work is complete, you vote to send it to the governor as is required. You are required to send it to the governor. The governor reviews it. You can continue to act without the governor's response to it. The governor will not review any charter revisions that are provided later than 4 p.m. the 12th Tuesday before the election, which is August. I had it written down. Realistically, though, they have asked, because the governor sends this to a group in the Attorney General's office for review, they say realistically, if you want feedback, it will take a minimum of 90 days. We are just past that. And so if you want to send this realistically to the governor/AG's office in time for a realistic, even though quickened review, you're looking at early June. If you go beyond that, realistically, you're not going to hear back from the governor. We're kind of past that point, and so you have to decide, do you want to submit this to November? If so, we need to wrap this up really quick to send to the governor. Otherwise, continue your work, and we'll have to send this at a later time to the governor for time for that full review, feedback for you guys to act, and then you guys could act on the feedback and then submit it for another election.
Okay, so, well, so let's try to get some information back on this question next Tuesday, a week from today, and see where it can go. If possible. Yeah, if possible.
Mis-
All right. Well,
Mr. President,
no, Commissioner Lopez, sorry.
so is there a willingness from the commissioners to meet more often? I mean, we meet once a week on Tuesdays. Does anybody want to meet twice a week on another date?
Between now and next Tuesday.
Between now and whatever, you know.
I'm available, whatever.
Would our attorney be prepared, though, that quickly? Probably not.
Nope. No, that's really the delay, is that it takes time to be able to do all of these, and meeting weekly is already
It's
kind of
really-
pushing that envelope for my office.
Well, I was thinking more of the commissioners' issues, you know, to kind of land on something that we would all agree
Yeah.
and
I mean,
support.
yes, I mean, if you want to meet, we can do that. My
just
sense
asking, by the
is
way.
that we have gone through now the charter several times, and I think we've identified what the issues are. People have talked about those issues and their position on those issues. I think it's just going to be kind of a rehash, which is fine. If people want to do that, we can do that. But, you know, it's getting to the point where you're going to have to make tough decisions. Commissioner Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to agree. I think I think we've all expressed our opinions here tonight. I can't see Commissioner Washington changing her mind to agree with me or vice versa. I think the die is cast, so to speak.
Commissioner Bauer. Oh, I thought you had your hand up? No? Checking. Commissioner Washington.
The reality is, we don't have to all agree. We have 9 votes, and we are all responsible for our own vote. I don't have to vote like the rest of you. I didn't get elected to be consensus and agree with everybody. I got elected to represent a group of people that I listen to and that I get feedback from. So y'all do what you want. I'm not looking to agree with all of you. I'm looking to speak my conscience. I will not be intimidated to change what is important to me, nor should you. We don't have to all agree.
Commissioner
There
Bauer.
were just a couple of things that were incredibly important to me, and they were the hill I would die on. And we all have it. We all have something that was incredibly important to us. You got what you wanted. My hill, I'm still on it. So we don't have to all agree. It doesn't have to be a contentious issue. If I vote for it not to go to the governor, I vote for it not to go to the governor. If I encourage people not to support it, I encourage people not to support it. That's my right, and it's your right to do what you want. It doesn't make me better or lesser.
Commissioner Bauer.
Maybe we should keep going right now.
Yeah, I think so. We're
But
saying
what
the
I'm
same thing
thinking,
over and over.
you know, maybe, I do agree, and I think none of us would be comfortable hurrying through things. But I think, though it looks like a lot, if we tackle it, and maybe we do a couple longer sessions, maybe next, I don't know, the problem is people have jobs and work, and that's not always easy. But, you know, maybe we do a 6-hour session next Tuesday, take a break in the middle for dinner and come back. I would just hate to see us miss a miss getting it over there by a few weeks, and I'm thinking of the public that we serve, and delay it because of that, because I think, I mean, I think we're almost there, aren't
Yeah,
we?
hey, let's
And then
move
I'll
on.
stop talking because
Okay.
I'm violating what I just
So,
said.
we're at 2-201. We're moving on past that. Kristen, 2-202.
All right, 2-202, you will find on page 15 on a nonpartisan ballot. The Home Rule Cities Act does require you state whether elections are partisan or nonpartisan. I haven't heard anyone talk about changing this to partisan, so if you
So if we go to an even year election and we don't want to be down ballot, and we want to go up, we should go partisan then?
well,
Just move on.
killing me, Smalls.
Move on.
Okay.
Trying to make a joke out of it. Okay.
Okay, now we're getting into a little more of a meaty discussion. 2-203 wards. The way that the language is currently worded, the election commission actually revises the boundaries within the times provided by law, and it's not stated as such in the charter, but in actuality, the city council votes on that. Under state law, the city council as a legislative body is required to approve boundaries. So in order to make sure that we put into the charter what's currently happening and what is required by law, we do recommend adding an additional sentence here to just simply state the city council shall approve and file the apportionment plan in accordance with state law. Otherwise, no other changes to that. Then, let's see, 2-204, and we are looking at most of that section, which begins on page 15. Method of nomination. These are required provisions under the charter. We see no legal issues with method of nomination as written. 2-205.1. There are no legal issues with this. This is 2- let's see, where did that go? 205. Not finding it. Oh, page, let's see, 2-205. Yes, thank you. 15 to 16, we did not see any issues there. And just in terms of what the election commission is, it complies with the law, so we would recommend leaving it as is. 2-206, manner and means of elections. These are mandatory charter provisions. We don't see any issues with them as written. And then 2-301, absence from office. There's no issue as written, no legal issue as written. The same with 2-303.
Kristen, in
Yep.
2-301, the absence from office, it talks about 60 consecutive days or more. That's quite a long time. Do you see in other charters that you've looked at a shorter period, or is this consistent?
I don't know that there's a standard in there. Because this is not a mandatory provision, it is kind of left up to the public, or it's left up to the cities more. I've not looked specifically at that issue, so I can't really answer whether it's sort of common or not.
Yeah.
This is certainly something that you have much more ability to define.
So it's discretionary?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Washington.
I always thought this was too long, too.
Yeah.
What do you think is acceptable? 30?
I would cut it, yeah, at least,
That's what I
Or
thought, at
most.
least.
yeah. We can come back to that and do an
Okay.
amendment. Okay. Thank you.
30 days. Okay. Make a note.
Commissioner Boyd.
I think as you look at that section, you might want to address whether they're business days, calendar days, whatever. Because when a city council, if we're talking like, say, for a city council person, 60 days is probably only 4 meetings. So I don't know. So I'm just saying we might want to be specific in terms of what the days mean. Thank you.
Okay. We'll get back to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kristen.
Okay. 2-303, filling vacancies. We saw no legal issues with the section as written. Again, this is an area where you have the ability to kind of define how vacancies get filled. 2-304, temporary absence of mayor, what that means. There was a lot of discussion on this. What had been left, there was one section that was changed, and that was the definition down in .6. But otherwise, the other provisions I don't think had gotten a vote, but we did not see any legal issues with that as written. 2-404, or excuse me, 2-402, which you will find on page 18, initiative and referendum. This is another common permissive charter provision. We see no legal issue with the section as written and would recommend leaving that in. 2-403, we actually do recommend that you modify this language to make the timelines in this section consistent with the Home Rule Cities Act. So if you look at page 11, that has the standard language with the proposed change, which is consistent with what's stated in the Home Rule Cities Act. So currently for petitions and initiative and referendum, if you look at .4, currently signatures obtained more than 90 days before the petition is not counted, but under the Home Rule Cities Act, its signatures obtained more than 1 year before the petition is filed shall not be counted. And then in .5, the charter currently states that the city clerk within 15 days shall canvass the signatures. Under the Home Rule Cities Act, it actually provides for 45 days. So we recommended modifying those timeframes to align with what the Home Rule Cities Act says. 2-404, suspension of a referred ordinance. That's a situation where citizens do put a referendum on the ballot for an ordinance. What happens with that ordinance during that interim? We see no legal issue with that section. 2-405, we're looking at page 18 and 19 here. Council action on petitions, so it's providing what the city council can do if a initiative or referendum petition is presented to them. This is not uncommon. It exists in other city charters. We see no legal issue with it. 2-406, special elections. Again, or actually, no, I'm sorry, that one, 2-406 was already voted on. It's 2-407. 2-407, submission by council on page 19. That's the option for the city commission or city council to submit a matter to the voters. We see no issue with this from a legal matter as written. Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dow.
So that mentions a vote of 5 city council members. Is that updated to reflect the new city council structure, or was that 5 out of 8?
It was already 5 out of 8,
So-
which
So 5 keeps it 2/3 then?
it would, yes.
Yeah, okay. I just want to be sure we didn't need, yep, okay.
Yep.
Well, would we want to change it to 2/3? Yeah.
And the majority, and I think the language we've been using is of members serving.
Let's
To just make that language the same.
majority. Okay. We'll come back.
2/3 members serving.
Pardon me? It'll still say 5.
Okay.
Or actually, that would be 2/3.
2/3, that is no 5, 5 is a majority. 6 is 2/3.
Well,
Out of
not out of
7?
7.
On 7?
Or out of 7. you're
Yeah,
right.
'cause it's-
Yeah, that is, okay.
That's why I didn't
I mean,
change
it's
it.
currently out of current, so would it make sense
be-
just to change it to a majority?
Yeah, we could say just a
Yeah.
majority of city council members serving.
Majority member serving, okay. Okay,
We'll come back to that.
okay. Okay. 2-408, determining the results of the election. We saw no legal issues with this section. 2-409, which starts on page 19, goes over to page 20. We did not see any legal issues with that section. And then finally, 2-411 charter amendments, we did not see any issues with, legal issues with that section.
Okay, so let's go back and take some votes. So if we start on Article 2, it'd be page 14, 2-105.1. Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Point passes unanimously. Point 2. Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 3. Is there a motion? Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. 2.106. Been moved and support. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. 2.201. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes.
I believe that was the one where we were asking the question about state law, what state law said. Did we clarify that? I thought Kristen said she wasn't sure what state law said.
In terms of odd to even, but in terms of the requirements which Clerk Swope discussed, but in terms of what this means in timing of general to primary.
Very good, thank you.
2-202. Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2-203, we already have approved point 1, so point 2. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 3, if we go to page 10 of the memo, there's some proposed language changes. It's been moved and supported to include the language that's presented in the page 10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. Point 4. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2-204.1. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 2. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 3. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously. Point 4, I believe we've already passed. Point 5. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 6. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. 2-205.1. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. Point 2. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2-206. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Chapter 3, 2-301. This is the absence from offices. Is there a motion to amend the days to 30? It's been moved and supported. Are those calendar days? Okay. All right. So it'd be 30, I'm sorry.
It says consecutive. Inside consecutive is calendar. So
Well,
that's what we want.
Correct. Well, there were some that were talking business, but if we're going to go for
And the reason I'm saying that is because there's other meetings outside of just the council meetings.
Absolutely.
So if they're not doing stuff throughout, if there's only 2 council meetings, but they've done nothing else, that,
Okay, it's been moved with to 30. We've got consecutive days in there.
And
Any-
we're changing the other 60 in the last sentence to 30
To
too.
30, correct.
Okay.
With those changes, is there a motion to approve the language?
Moved.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. 2-302, we've already approved. 2-303. It's been moved. Is there support for point 1? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. Point 2. It's been moved and, is there support? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2-304, point 1. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. Point 2. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 3. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 4. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Point 5. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. We've already approved. Point 6. Chapter 4, 2-401, we've already approved. 2-402. Is there a motion to support? Or a motion to approve? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2-403. If you look on page 11, there's going to be some proposed amendments. Point.
Do you want to go point by point, Bill?
Yeah, let's do the point. Yeah, we could. The motion would be to improve the entire section 2-403, 1.1 through 6, with the change in point 4, where 90 days would be amended to 1 year, and in point 6, 15 days would be moved up to 45 days. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2.404, is there a motion? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. 2-405. You want to take the entire section? Yeah. All right. See? Are those- Oh, it's going to say, Commissioner Dowd had to leave by 8. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. 2.406, we've already completed. 2.407. Okay, so by a majority vote of council members serving. Okay, did you get the amendment? Yep, okay. On that, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2.408 in its entirety. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. 2.409 in its entirety. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, passes. We dealt with 2-402, or 2-410 has been, we've already dealt with that. 2-411.
Can we revisit it?
Pardon me?
Can we revisit that?
Yeah, well,
Because what we did was we eliminated your electors to be able to
Right.
come back in a certain amount of years.
we were going to do that when we do the
Oh, we
go-around.
got
Yeah. 2-411 in its entirety. Been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Section 2 is done. Or Article 2, excuse me. Okay, Kristen, Article 5?
Okay, Article 5, the memo starts on page 29, the first memo. But the provisions that are outstanding are referenced on page 27 of Emery's memo. One of the issues outstanding is 5-103, appointment of board members. The memo on page 29 is resubmission of a discussion that the board hadn't finished in terms of how the general appointment of board members is made. We had provided some language in terms of maintaining the current structure of the mayor, selecting with consent of the council, but with proposed addition of language that the names of individuals seeking membership on city boards shall be public, and that the council shall have access to the application and eligibility information of all individuals seeking membership on the boards. There was also some, moving on to page 30, there was also some discussion about whether there needed to be additional language about reappointment and the proposed language would require board members to actually submit a new application. It's not necessarily like an automatic renewal. There was also discussion on term limits, although it's still in this memo, but I believe the board kind of moved off of that. But anyway, that's still there. And then just in terms of, the other issue is Board of Ethics, which is the following memo and a discussion on how the Board of Ethics is selected, but then also whether there's any additional, I guess, teeth or recourse that the Board of Ethics would have in terms of any actions that it had taken. So I didn't know if there's additional discussion you wanted to have on either of these, or additional work you wanted done on any of these provisions.
Okay, excuse me, on Article 5, if you go to page 41 and looking at the memo on page, I can't tell, 29, if you go down to 5-103.2, we have not, we did point 1, point 2, we need to approve that language. There's a motion to support. Been moved and supported. All those in
Wait,
favor say aye.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm lost. Tell me again where you are.
Page 41,
Okay.
down at the bottom, 5-103.2. We have not approved that. If you look at the memo on page 29, they're not recommending any changes. So that is the language we're approving. Yeah, there's a motion to approve, and there's support. All those in favor?
I'm not ready to vote on this. I need more time to vote. I mean, if somebody needs to walk me through this, because the appointment of board members was a big issue that we talked about, and I'm not sure this addresses everything we talked about. So I would like to, if we could, go through it point by point. Thank you.
Starting on,
With the appointment by 5-103.
okay. What is it you want in terms of going through it? What are you looking for specifically? I mean, point 1 talks about, it says every member of a board, commission, committee established by charter or ordinance shall be an officer of the city and shall possess the qualifications required by this charter for holding office, except that a felony conviction shall not render an individual ineligible for appointment or membership. At a prior meeting, we approved that language. Point 2, except as otherwise specifically provided in the charter or state law, the mayor shall appoint persons to all such boards, commissions, committees with the advice and consent of council. No such appointment shall be effective until the council has confirmed it. And then point.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, please?
Yep.
There was some conversation at one point about, and maybe you can just tell me if it's addressed in this, and maybe it will save you time. But there was talk at one point, I mean, the list of potential appointees will be public, but there was some talk about the council, even though the council can now confirm an appointment by the mayor, there was some talk about the council appointing or nominating members to boards and commissions. Is that in here?
Not in the language that we're looking at.
Pardon?
Not in the language that we're looking at tonight.
And then there was also a conversation, as I recall, about board members whose terms expire, and they continue to serve now until a replacement is named. Is that addressed in this as well?
Not in the language that we're dealing with tonight.
And I would ask the question, why not? Did we agree as a commission that we weren't going to do that? Or we're just ignoring it?
This was, if you look at the memo, it was dated April 25th. We were working off that. And I'm not sure if I don't believe there was any consideration or any direction given to the city, to our attorney, to deal with that language.
Thank you.
I mean, if that's something you want to do, what are the specific questions? that
Well,
you-
I guess I would like to know what the commission thinks about this. You know, is this something that just Liz Boyd is thinking about? Or was this something that all of the commissioners were concerned about, whether or not the council would be able to or should be asked to appoint or nominate a member of a board? And what about that board member, if their term expires and no replacement has been named, do they continue to serve or not? I don't know the answer to that. It seems to me they should not, but. They do. What? Right now, they do. They continue to serve until a replacement is named. And is that the way we want to operate? I don't know. I'd be curious to hear, I thought we had a conversation about it, but I don't recall.
We did.
Other comments, questions? Commissioner Washington?
I agree with Commissioner Boyd in that, frankly, if their term expires, it's expired. And I don't think you just leave it vacant. I think there should.
So my argument would be when the term expires, that creates a vacancy. And the vacancy, the appointment to fill the vacancy shall be made upon the occurrence of the vacancy, and each person so appointed shall take office immediately upon the confirmation of the council to serve for the remainder of the unexpired term. In the event a vacancy is not filled within 60 days, so they continue to hold over and it's 60 days are up, after the occurrence of the vacancy, the council shall appoint a committee of 3 of its members to act instead of the mayor in making such appointments. So you've got the mayor that can fill the vacancy and you've got council that can fill the vacancy. I don't believe council's ever convened a committee of 3 to do that, but there is a mechanism currently in the charter that addresses the vacancy position, or the occurrence of a vacancy and how vacancies to be fulfilled. So, I mean, does that answer your question?
Well, it sort of does. It sort of points a finger at the council again for that.
I'm not pointing a finger
What
at
I'm
anybody.
just saying is that maybe we need to be a little bit more specific and say that appointments to fill vacancies should be made upon the occurrence of the vacancy, and each person so appointed shall take office immediately upon the confirmation of the council to serve on the remainder of the unexpired term. But maybe there needs to be a sentence in there that says, when a board member's term expires, they cease to be a member of that board or commission. And then this language would take over. So maybe there needs to be another sentence in there. And that would push everybody to sort of make sure that they're doing their jobs.
Well, if we had a proposed amendment that talks about individuals seeking reappointment to a board shall submit a new application.
Right?
It's required. Consideration for reappointment may include the individual's
Right.
years of service, et cetera. So does that answer? No? Commissioner Anderson?
I think what I've noticed, and I think that this is what Commissioner Boyd is mentioning, there are people who don't actually want to be reappointed for another term, but the mayor hasn't selected someone else, and so they stay on and stay on and stay on. And you'll see, like, on the list of boards and commissions, it has their name, and then it says, like, vacant in parentheses, I think, something like that. Do we want that to occur? Do we want them to just keep serving even though they clearly don't want to? Or should they just, if they don't reapply for appointment, they're done? Because it's not clearly stated.
Yeah, we can do that, I think.
Yeah.
In terms, Kristen, of looking, if a person terms expire, does that create a vacancy?
Not necessarily. And you may want to think about this. It's not just filling a vacancy. Y'all are assuming that there's a list to choose from. Right. There is circumstances where you may have a board that nobody wants to serve on it at all. And then you may need a holdover to maintain quorum. I'll give you a little war story. I worked for a city that they had a board that reviewed income tax appeals. Super sexy topic. No one wanted to serve on it. They didn't have enough, they only had one board member on a board of 3. They could not get a second board member. There was not a quorum, so someone that had a legitimate appeal could not be heard for over a year because they couldn't fill it. So there can be a legitimate reason to need to have a holdover so that you can still have the board do business. Usually that is dealt with in board, either you may need to look at a specific ordinance for a particular board because there's a whole lot of boards and some of them have additional regulations by ordinance, or it may also be dealt with by the rules of the board. But there's that other situation too that you should be aware of in terms of how that can affect a board.
Clerk's vote.
I do have a letter from the city attorney on this topic that has been given to council members. And I believe it represents the standing opinion of the city attorney's office. So the question is, may board or commission members whose terms have expired continue to serve, or must they step down until reappointed or replaced? The general principle is that in the absence of provisions to the contrary, at the expiration of a term for a board member, the person occupying that position may hold over until either a successor is appointed or the board member holding over is reappointed. It is important to note that the individual has no obligation to stay in the position, but the position is not considered vacant if they do hold over and continue to attend and act. This is consistent with the general public interest that public positions should be filled at all times without interruption. Michigan courts have recognized and adopted this as the standard for officers holding over after their term has expired or their authority vacated, and treating them as, quote, still are de facto officers and their acts as such are legal, end quote. And there's a court case cited, Cantwell versus City of Southfield. The default position of the Cantwell case is still good law in Michigan, and there is no language or provision in the charter or ordinance to the contrary for city boards and commissions.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez.
We could also look at some language that says that 30 days or some date before their term expires, that they be notified term expires on such time, and that applications be taken to fill that vacancy, and then the person could also apply, for reappointment. But then they be notified of a term expiration and then start taking the applications so that it would be a smoother transition than waiting till the term is done, and now what do we do? So 30 days, 90 days, whatever number.
Madam Vice Chair.
Currently, I know that they list the board and commissions and their expiration date.
Right.
Is there someone going through there, or even the board president or chair saying, you're about to expire? Would you like to reapply? Is it someone doing that?
No.
No,
No, that's,
well, I'm asking, because it hasn't been done. There's a difference. There's a
I think that
difference.
depends on the
The
board.
board, that's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying. I have something consistent.
But I believe the mayor's office works with those folks as well.
Okay. I didn't know if there
you know,
was
the-
one specific person in charge of that. That's what I was asking.
The
To go
mayor
through the
does
board.
have one person who deals with almost all of the appointments, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a question.
Commissioner Kui.
There is a list, and it comes out 90 days before the expiration of your thing. So when I was on the advisory board, it was sent to all of us that were within 90 days of that expiration, if you were going to re-up again. And if you were, we were told we had to meet with city council again. But that list comes out 90 days, and that did come from the mayor's office. I don't know who put it together, but there was a list that was
Yeah.
90 days out.
I don't know if that needs to be in the charter or not, but we're stuck with the fact that people's,
It's in the charter.
It's number 4. The city clerk shall report to the mayor and council prior to the first council meeting in March, a list of terms of city boards which shall end on June 30th. So that is your 90 days, where that's already should be happening.
Well, but then it goes, go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
I was just gonna suggest for the proposed language for 5-105 for seeking reappointment, if we should add like a timeline or a deadline to when that application should be resubmitted. Is it like 30 days before their term expires, or 60 or 90 or whatever? When does that need to be turned in? I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Well, in terms of the process, it also talks about, so you get the list in March, city council, of those folks that are their term expires on June 30th. And then on point 6, the mayor shall file a list of appointments to several boards prior to the first council meeting of May each year. And that council shall act on the appointment or prior to its first meeting in June. So I think that's the timeline, but I don't believe is that being followed?
The mayor submitted a resolution with about 30 appointments, and the council approved them.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other positions that did or will expire June 30th that have not been reappointed. So, is it followed? Yes, but does it catch, is it a net that catches every fish? Not necessarily.
What an analogy. Commissioner Anderson.
So I guess my question is, so the proposed language of asking for the application for reappointment is a new process. So even though there's point 4 and point 6, there's nothing within this new process that indicates when the board member needs to submit their new application. Do we want to add that needs to be submitted by a certain time, or they can just do it whenever?
Would that make them ineligible if they miss the deadline? And is that what you want? I guess?
Right. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there for conversation. I think it's worth considering.
Commissioner Dow.
Do you feel that number 6 takes care of that, though? Because if they're getting alerted in March, the mayor is going to file the appointments in May to get in front of city council.
Okay.
So I think to me, I think it goes back to the rules of the board. Like, they would have to just follow their own.
And so what happens if someone doesn't submit a new application and then they, per point 6, just are added to the list of appointments?
Good question.
Well, it was my understanding that what we're trying to do is with that new application, they would go, I think they usually, or some have actually had to go back before council for that process. I don't think or do all of them do that in terms of the reappointment process?
Say that again?
In terms of reappointments to the boards, do they actually have to go back in front of council for?
They
and everything?
typically do not interview them for reappointments.
I know some of them did.
They were supposed to.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the language that we have on page 30, in Well, first of all, let's go back to page 29. Well, just so it's all together in terms of time. On point 5, down at the bottom, it's talking about, and this is on the part of the mayor, will make this procedure public and establish this procedure for accepting applications or recommendations of individual for membership on city boards and commissions. Then it adds, the names of individuals seeking membership on the city board shall be public. The council shall have access to the application and eligibility information of all individuals seeking membership on city boards. So, and then the language that was being discussed about seeking reappointment could be added after that language. So with the first part in terms of point 5, the recommended amendment on page 29, point 5 as amended with that language, is there a motion and support?
I'll support it.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. And then on page 30, we can add this language, 2.5. Let's see. Go ahead, Commissioner Dow.
I wonder if just to make the timing issue in here, at the end of the first sentence, individuals seeking reappointment to the board shall submit a new application prior to the mayor's recommendation. That way, it doesn't have like a date, but like, they would have to make it known that they were going to reapply. So we're
So
requiring them to,
where would you put that?
at the end of the first sentence there, individuals seeking reappointment to the board shall submit a new application prior to the mayor's appointment. Or prior to the mayor's recommendation, rather.
Well, are you looking at point 4 or point 5?
The top of page 30, the reappointment?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
4.5.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would argue against that for
Okay.
this reason only. I could see a situation where there is a board and the deadline comes and goes, and the mayor doesn't have a sufficient number of people that are going to serve, and the mayor, whoever he or she is, may approach board members to say, I don't have enough people. Will any of you consider being reappointed? And someone saying, okay, I'll put my application in, and so they've missed that deadline.
Sure.
So I would argue that we should leave it as is, and I would support that. Thank you.
Again, just a sec, again, going back to the procedural thing on page 42, it would fit better, I think, in point 4 instead of point 5, where in point 4, the mayor's already given out his list of people that he wants to which is going to end on June 30th. I think maybe tying it to that point, or not.
I think point 4 only refers to what's to expire, not a recommendation. I think point 6 is the filing list of appointments.
Okay.
But I can understand putting that somewhere else.
Yeah.
If there's a time parameter, I think that,
Commissioner Anderson.
Okay, I'm just gonna explain to you guys what's in my brain. I'm a process person, okay? I'm very much a like if then what type of person. Okay. You're up for reappointment on a board. You don't submit your application. You can just stay on without being reappointed because there's nothing stating that you can't. So what enforces this actually being done? Because to me, the purpose of adding this in was to also allow council to review if they're like doing their job as a board member or commissioner, and also possibly review applications that are sitting in the queue to see if there's a better fit. And so if someone's like, I'm just not resubmitting my application, there's no recourse because we can allow them to just stay on without being reappointed. I think that is what my concern is. There's nothing stopping, there's nothing enforcing this from happening. That's my concern.
Appreciate it.
All right, it sounds like you're talking about a reappointment and a holdover. If
Yeah.
a person's term is up, their term is up, even if they're holding over.
Right.
So if the person's term is up, the mayor can say, thank you for your service, I'm appointing somebody else, regardless of whether they say, I'm not leaving.
Are they going to though? Like really?
He should.
He should, but I'm just
And
asking.
also should city council.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true of the entire charter.
Oh, not nice. Kristen, do you have a recommendation?
In terms of where it would, I would put this, it's my understanding that the commission wanted some apparatus for board members who are currently on there to affirmatively state, yes, I want to continue on the board. So that there is this additional application process, so it goes through this additional review. Instead of just essentially, you're still through until you say you're off. So to that end, I would leave, if you want to have a section requiring reappointment to submit a new application, I would actually put it under .5, which is the procedure for, where am I? That was my recommendation, is either .5 or as an entirely new .12 if you don't do term limits. I would just add it as an additional sentence to .5 after the language you've already approved. So it would say, the names of individuals seeking membership shall be public. The council shall have access to the application and eligibility information of all individuals seeking membership on city boards. Individuals seeking reappointment to a board shall submit a new application. Consideration for reappointment may include an individual's attendance, years of service, and needs of the board. And then in terms of the nitty-gritties, you leave it up to what's already in that section, which is the mayor shall establish and make public the procedure, which could provide a timeline for that. That was kind of where I was headed, just in terms of functionality of where it's placed. But I hope that explains how they would maybe all fit together a little better. I think consistent with where you all are talking.
Okay, so again, then, we're going to leave this at the first part of .5. It's the mayor's responsibility to establish this procedure.
Right.
That's fair.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. So, a motion would be in order to amend .5 as amended to add the language that we have just discussed.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. And then the next proposed amendment dealt with term limits. It was suggested it goes into .12. We, I think, already amended .12 to include the training, so it would probably be .13. In terms of term limits, what are people's? We did. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of
Okay.
felt like it might.
Okay. No, I know we had talked about it. I didn't know, since it was here, if you wanted to come back and discuss it. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so we need to, did we already approve .3 then? No, we have not. .3 needs to be approved. Going backwards. Sorry, Ben. But 103.2, we've already approved tonight. And then we're at 103.3. That has not been, we did not approve that. 42. Is there a motion? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. We've approved .5. We've approved everything else except .10. Oh, we've already, I think we approved that. It's just a second.
That's
Yeah.
in, that's in the next, that's in the next one. That's in 105-105.
Okay, all right. So, moving on. 5-104, we have no changes too. I think this takes us actually to the Board of Ethics. That's on page 50. And then we're at 5-502.1. I think we've already approved .2. And .7 we need to approve in this section. So on .2, is there a motion to support? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. .7.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed. In 5-503, that entire section we have not approved. Do you want to go point by point or approve as a total? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Okay, so we're done with Article 5. And
Did we address the one about the minutes?
5-.
Maybe that was, never mind, that was previously done.
I
It was
thought
just
we
still in
did.
the memo. Forgot to-
Yeah, we've already approved it.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. All right, so moving to Article 3. This is dealing with, it's on page 53, the internal, external auditor. I was asked at the last meeting to put some language together on this, and I've done that. I sent it out on Sunday. I tried to get it out as early as I could. And basically, what it's doing is creating an office of the independent internal auditor that would be created by ordinance. The city would create it by ordinance. It creates the risk-based auditing plan. This was a recommendation that was presented to us by Internal Auditor Randall when he came and presented to us. It's a different form of auditing. It identifies what the greatest risks are to the city, or probable risks, and allows for more efficient association of monies. It is kind of what is being done now. It's different than the approach that we take now, which is pretty much a shotgun approach. If you look at all of the duties and responsibilities of the auditor, it's everything you can think of. But this allows for, I think, a more focused review of what the issues are facing the cities that, or facing the city that should be audited. It creates, again, an independent office that is not going to be supervised or directed by either the mayor or city council. It will be staffed by an internal auditor, and this provides for an internal auditor in terms of its credentials, has to be a certified public accountant, and also certified as a certified internal auditor by the Institute of International Auditors. This was, again, a recommendation by Mr. Randall, and that seems to be the gold standard. And the auditor will be mutually appointed by the mayor and by a vote of a majority of city council members serving, and can be suspended or removed by either party. And this would be in accordance with the language that we adopted with the city attorney's office. It also talks about the internal auditor shall appoint a deputy, and then is also authorized to hire additional staff as may be approved by the city or in the budget. The powers and duties is that basically every year by July 1st, and we're working off the fiscal year, the internal auditor will prepare an annual risk-based audit plan. Copies of that plan will be delivered to the mayor and city council and placed on file with the clerk. By August 1st and February 1st of each fiscal year, the mayor and city council, after consultation with the internal auditor, shall mutually agree on which audits the internal auditor will conduct during the first half and second half of the fiscal year. At the conclusion of each audit, the internal auditor will make a full report to the mayor and city council and place it on file with the city clerk. The internal auditor will perform financial analysis, not audits, but a financial review of all agencies not selected for audit in the current fiscal year. And they'll present those analysis to the mayor, city council, and place it on file with the city clerk. And at the close of the fiscal year, and this comes from our existing one, the internal auditor shall make a report to on the financial position of the city and present the report to the mayor, city council, and place it on file with the city clerk. The internal auditors also invested with the power to investigate and the administration and operation of any city agency and report findings and recommendations to the mayor, city council, and file each report with the city clerk. And it also shows what access the internal auditor is to have with all city records and departments. The internal auditor is going to provide the finance director with all information necessary in the preparation of annual budgets and capital improvement requests. Internal auditor, as existing in our charter, shall have no authority to audit the activities of the Board of Water and Light, except as requested in writing by the board. And then the internal auditor shall have all other powers and duties as required by law or ordinance. Again, the city's going to develop this ordinance, and they may want to add something to it or do some things a little differently. And then the limitation is the same language that follows or that falls within the existing charter provisions. Having done all this, I'm still not, and as I wrote in my email to all of you, and I don't want to ignite a fire here, but I'm still not convinced that this position is even necessary for the city. The clerk has handed out some information tonight showing that since 1998, over 25 years ago, there have been 4 reports that the auditor has submitted to the city. And one's an inter-office communication. I don't even know if that's an audit. But they've done 2 annual analysis of the financial position of the cities, 1 internal audit on parking services. So I don't think, to be honest, in my view, I don't believe there's any value that's really been added to the city in terms of the return on that investment, in terms of financial findings or changing of financial processes or looking at performance reviews and, having, the performance of a department changed to be more efficient or anything like that, any of the stuff that they were supposed to do. But I was asked to put this together, so I put it together for your review. Commissioner Bauer.
Do we know what other cities our size or cities in Michigan do? Do they have independent internal auditors?
Some of this stuff, as I indicated in my email, was pulled from the Detroit City Charter. Mm-hmm. And they have, and it's interesting because I think we could do that here, is they have a section that is actually entitled Independent Departments. And one is the city attorney's office, and then one is an internal auditor. So that's where some of that came from. But, yeah, some of them do. And Kristen, what's your experience? Have you seen anything in terms of internal auditors?
Again, it depends because this is not a mandatory provision. So there are, controllers that have sort of auditing type functions. There's the City of Detroit. Yeah, and they all can be different. Again, the other thing to keep in mind is with more modern statutes, all of the cities are required to have an external audit. So all of them are doing that on a consistent basis as well.
Commissioner Boyd.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for your work. I think this is, obviously, a lot of thought has gone into this, and I appreciate it. And if it comes up for a vote, I would be willing to support it. I'm not ready to say that we don't need an internal auditor. I like the notion of an independent auditor. I do have a question, and that is related to point 2 and point 5 and how they work. For example, in point 2, it says that in August and in February, the mayor and city council, after consultation with the internal auditor, would mutually agree on the audits. Well, how does that happen? I mean, what would be the audit? And then in number 5, it said that the internal auditor, obviously being independent, could investigate whatever he or she wants to investigate and present a report. So I'd like to know how 2 and 5 work together. but I think an internal auditor is the way to go, and I would support it.
Well, my response to that would be is if you go down to point 8, again, it references all other powers and duties as required by law or ordinance. My view was that I would think that when city council and mayor sit down and draft the ordinance, that those kinds of discussions would occur, and then it would be controlled by the ordinance, through the ordinance. This was getting kind of down into the weeds, and maybe you don't want to do that in a charter provision and do it by ordinance, so there's a little more flexibility, particularly down the road. But I suspect that those are the issues that would be worked out within the ordinance. I mean, it's telling them they have to, and they can put together the process of how that works. Commissioner Washington.
I'm not opposed to an independent auditor, but I'm not, I guess maybe I have to agree that maybe not all of this needs to be in the charter and that we should leave it for ordinance. Just shorten it up, make it a little more flexible.
Well, I've done everything I can do.
No, I appreciate it. I
I'm done with
appreciate
this.
it. But I just think maybe we should consider having some of this done by ordinance and not by charter. Particularly since this charter is probably going to be here forever now. So I think we have to be kind of careful of putting some things in stone.
So how does the commission want to move on this? Commissioner Bauer?
I mean, I'm ready to move this whole section if,
Oh,
so I move that we adopt the new language, Chapter 4, internal and external audits.
okay, is there
Unless you
discussion?
want to go line by, we can go line by line, but,
No, I don't want to go.
okay. So I so move.
It's been moved and supported. Commissioner Anderson.
A couple notes. 1.4, I think the first word there is supposed to be after, and it's missing an F. And then for .7, I think that if the Board of Water and Light requests us to do an internal audit, they, bless you, should cover the costs associated with that. So I think if that's going to be in there, we should add some language around them covering the cost of that audit for .7.
Okay. All right. Let's see. How about as requested in writing and paid for by the board? And what was your other one? I'm sorry, I missed it.
.4 above that, I think the first word is supposed to be after, and it's just missing an F. Yeah, just a typo.
I'm sorry, not following.
.4,
Oh, okay, got it. Adder? You don't want what? Jeez, okay. So with those two changes, does anybody else have any other? Commissioner Lopez.
Question. So it talks about a deputy auditor and can hire additional staff at the next point. So is there anywhere else that we can, that it says that a budget should be established?
Well, yeah, again, I mean, that can be done through ordinance, but this sets up that there's going to be at least an auditor and a deputy auditor. And that's one of the other thoughts that I had was that, I mean, you're basically creating a department here.
I understand that, but I
Yeah.
think we've had on and off, staff in the audit office, and then we don't have staff. So if you want to make it office that is effective, they need to have the staff and the money to hire staff. So I don't know if council people that have served before,
Well,
what's the problem with the budget?
no. In .5, and I think you've seen it, the internal auditor may be authorized by city to hire additional staff and independently contract with other entities consistent with the city's hiring and procurement policies to adequately perform the function of the office. So, I mean, like anything else, it's going to go through the budget process. And it's going to be, it has to be a priority
Well,
because it's mandatory.
no. I understand, but I don't know, it seems like the deputy auditor and additional staff can be there, but if there's no budget for it, is it something that the council must do?
Well, they're going to have at least 2 people because it requires a deputy.
It's going to be required. I mean, it's required if we want to have an effective auditor, but if we don't give them any leeway to establish a budget, what's going to happen?
Well-
It's going to go down the wayside.
Commissioner Boyd.
Your point is well taken, but just like I said earlier, when it came to the council being able to hire their own attorney, and would that attorney be paid? Everyone said, well, no, that's sort of implied because it's in the charter, and that sort of authorized the hiring, and then, of course, the payment. We've gone through all kinds of sections and articles of this charter, and in no circumstances have we ever talked about the budget. I think you could make that argument that you're making, or the question you're asking, about anything we've included. It will be up to the mayor, the sitting mayor, and the sitting council to make it a priority. And if they choose not to, then a pox on them.
So it seems like it's a kind of a, I'm not going to say waste of time, but if we're going to have effective audits, which we haven't had many of them, and it's probably because they had no staff, or because we didn't have an auditor in place. So I think that if we think about it, we could say a budget shall be established and go from there.
But it could be $1.
Could be $1, could be 50 cents, for all we know. All that I'm saying is that if you're going to have an effective audit, you're going to have to fund it. And if you don't fund it, you're going to be in the same shape we're today. That's the final thing.
Councilmember Bauer.
I totally agree with that. However, again, you could say that about any department throughout the entire charter. And we all know that mayors and city councils have priorities, and sometimes all you have to do is read, some of the Facebook posts about people who think we don't put enough money into tree removal, so I think, but the proof will be if the budget, and there'll be salaries, but I don't think that belongs in the charter, the part about the budget. But it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you. So we have the city council budget, right? In the city council budget should be included the budget for the auditor.
No, this is independent now.
You want to make an independent,
This is
That's what this
independent. This is what this does.
well, independent with no money, I guess. That's fine. Go figure. Go figure. So what's the use?
But that could be said.
If it's like any other department, every other department has a budget, right?
But not in the charter.
They're not, well, what do you mean in the charter?
I mean, the charter doesn't.
No, I understand
The
that.
charter doesn't lay out a budget priorities for any of the departments that we have on state and city government.
But
Commissioner
we're talking
Anderson.
about the internal auditor for the city council.
Okay. Commissioner Washington.
As I said, I'm not going to vote yes on this. I'm not opposed to an independent auditor at all. But I don't think all of this should be in the charter, and I'm only going to be voting no because I think much of it should be by ordinance so that there is more flexibility. And it will be a new department, and to your point, Commissioner Lopez, we're a poor city. We don't have a lot of money. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get better anytime soon. We may have more population, but that doesn't mean we're going to have more revenue. And so, I'm hesitant also to say it will have this, and this, because we can barely do what we're doing now. But, so as I vote no, I just want to ensure that I'm in agreement with this, but not for it to be this much in the charter.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, please.
Question.
Point of
Commissioner
clarification.
Anderson, I'm sorry.
Do we need to
Oh.
move the,
The motion is to approve with the amendments that we
yes,
talked about.
thank you.
Commissioner Lopez has a question.
Commissioner Lopez.
I was going to say that even though I've said what I said about the budget issue, I'm going to support it because it's going to be there, and then people can come and hold the council accountable
And the
for,
mayor.
for not providing a budget for an auditor.
Hold people accountable.
However it works out. But if it's not there, we don't have no options.
Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Adam Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowd, Commissioner Jeffries,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Coe, Commissioner Washington.
No.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, that takes care of Article 4. Oh, just, Kristen, where would we put this in the charter then? And then what does that do to the external auditor? Does that still fall under this? Would this, it would,
You still need an external auditor. As a separate department, you could put it under Article 4, although there are other departments, most of them fall under the mayor. The city clerk is also under Article 4, and he does not. So you could look at doing that, but external audits are not an independent office, so I think we need to review that and just see if it can remain. I mean, you could look at just having it remain in Article 3, but I don't have a good answer for you because of how we.
well, that's okay.
I was
So if you
reworded.
could just bring back
Yeah.
two of those
Yeah, and
recommendations.
I think we just need to review and just make sure that this change doesn't affect any other references to auditors throughout the charter, because it does pop up
Okay.
a few other times.
All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. All right, Article 7. This is on page 55.
Okay, so this is a memo coming back to discussion that the board had on Article 7 and points of that article that the board had requested additional language on. The first is we are looking at 7-104 and 105, budget hearing and adoption. During the discussion on this, the commission had asked to look at language about requiring there be a span of time between the completion of the required budget hearings and then the actual vote to adopt the budget. We kind of went back and forth about where to put that language, but the proposed language here puts it in 7-104.2. So the recommendation would be to leave point 1 the same, but then for point 2 to add additional language to just state, council shall not vote to adopt the budget until at least 1 week after completion of the last required budget hearing. The commission did not specify a specific time frame. 1 week and 2 weeks was bandied about. We put 1 week in here for discussion for you to consider, just in terms of how long of a time you would like and what makes sense given the timeline that already sort of exists for presenting the budget, doing the budget hearing, and ultimately the requirement for when to adopt the budget. And did you want to go through the whole memo? Okay.
Let's do that.
So, the next item that we reviewed was 7-107, effective appropriation. We just wanted to clarify, because there had been a question The first question was whether the city can prepare a 2 or 3 year budget. You are required by law to have a 1 year budget, although some cities do kind of forecast out year 2 or year 3, but they're always approving an annual budget as they do that. So you do have to have an annual budget. The second question was whether, and just to follow up on a discussion the board already had about the 15% or 5,000 provision for the appropriation. There is no state law that limits how much an appropriation transfer can be. You just have to, the legislative body in a General Appropriations Act may permit the chief administrative officer to execute transfers within the limits stated in the act between appropriations without prior approval. So any amount over what's been stated in the charter would just have to go back to the general appropriation. So just to kind of close that loop. In 7-109 capital improvements plan, there was a question about whether the capital improvements plan can be a shorter period than 6 years. The answer is no, because the Planning Enabling Act requires it to be a 6-year period. So it does have to cover a 6-year period, and sometimes that can sort of be added on to or changed, but again, it does need to be a 6-year period under state law. Then for point 2 within 709, there does not appear to be an ordinance in place about this topic. So it says that when this was originally added to the charter, and if you look at page 57, point 2 of 7-109 currently states the mayor shall prepare within 4 months and the city council shall adopt within 6 months of the effective date of the charter an ordinance that specifies a detailed planning and budget process for the capital improvements plan. I did not see an ordinance that met that criteria, and that could just be a change in, there was sort of the sunsetting process that is currently in place, and I don't know if that sort of fell off after no longer being needed with changes to state law, but there currently, as far as we could tell, did not see an ordinance in place, so we don't think that point 2 is strictly required, so we would recommend revisiting that and striking that from 7-109. And then in terms of 7-205 Board of Review, the commission, and we're looking on page 57, we've highlighted the section. The commission pointed out that there are some references to dates in the 80s and whether that should be revised. What we had suggested is to just be consistent with state law, that you simply state that the mayor shall appoint members to the Board of Review subject to council confirmation as provided by ordinance, and then leave that really up to state law. Part of the reason is you already have an ordinance that provides that procedure, and the ordinance and the charter do not align with each other because the charter says 3 members and the ordinance says 5, and I believe you currently are operating under the ordinance. So you can simply clean that up and leave it to ordinance, and then that allows for that flexibility. So you're stating that the procedure will be stated by ordinance, and that can change a lot easier than the charter can. When we're looking at 7-303 use of borrowed funds, there was a request as sort of what does that mean when you take out a bond with an obligation and, once the bond is paid off, what happens with that extra money? So we just provided an example for you of kind of what that means and how that kind of plays into such a situation. So again, we didn't actually offer any language for that, but just an explanation on what the use of, on what that term means. We did provide an example of City of Caro that had maybe a little more clarity, although it's a lot longer than what Lansing currently provides. We don't actually think you need to make any changes to this section. Then when we get to page 60, there is section 7-304 execution of obligations, and the highlighted provision was what was discussed, and that's the use of facsimile signatures. And what does that mean, and do we still need that? There is state law language when we're talking specific to execution of payments like this that states facsimile signature, so that certainly complies with that provision of the law. But as we pointed out, there is a more recent law, the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, that would allow for signatures via electronic signature. But as the clerk had pointed out the last time, when we're talking about bonds and you're dealing with potentially hundreds or more of these things, a facsimile or an auto pen type thing would make things a lot easier. And even with an electronic, you don't necessarily want to have to go through and electronically sign everything. So if you wanted to change that to modernize it, you could strike facsimile and then just add as permitted by law, as we have in the proposed language down below. Otherwise, you can leave it as is. And then and finally, there is a language about proposed additional section on transparency, which I believe is probably the next section. We just wanted to point out, we did review, yeah, that's on 62. We did review the language provided in this proposed new section, and we saw no legal issues with the transparency language, should the board want to adopt it.
Okay, thank you. So looking at Chapter 7, and I'm on page 63, 7-103, we have not approved but for .2. So a motion would be in order to approve 7-103 with all of its subsections, but for .2, that's already been approved at our prior meeting. It's been moved. Is there support? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Isn't number 2 has proposed change language, right? We didn't approve that. I'm sorry, it's new number 2. Just keeping myself on my toes.
All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-104, .2, or .1, let's take these individually. .1, motion be in order to approve. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. .2, there's a proposed amendment. It was submitted to us. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-105, .1 and .2. Is there a motion? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-107, .3. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-109. Kristen, in your memo on page 57, .2, did we do this at the last meeting? I thought we did not do that.
Your question was whether you approved .2?
It's whether we deleted it and then renumbered .2 and .3. We did not do that.
I don't recall. I did not think we did, but if you already did, then we can move on.
Well, let's go ahead and do it again.
Okay.
So, motion be ordered to approve 7-109, .1. Let's do them individually. .1. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously. .2, it's a request to strike .2 in its entirety. Is there a motion to approve? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
It was proposed by our attorneys.
Those opposed? And this would also include the renumbering. .3 will become .2 and .4, .3. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-205, Board of Review.
So move.
Moving the amended on page 58.
64. Oh, 50. Wait a minute.
The attorney proposed
The
amendment
A-
on page 58.
You're talking about A and B?
205, point 2. Point 2 is the one I moved. No action, we didn't need any action on point 1. So
No.
point 2 was the mayor shall appoint members to the Board of Review subject to council confirmation as provided by ordinance. End of story. And I move support of that.
Okay. There's support. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. Yes. If- No. The remainder.
Make a motion to approve the remainder of section.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, passes. 7-303. There'd be a motion, I think, to delete the existing point 1.2.3 and add the new sections on page 50, pardon me, is that 60? 59. They were
I didn't think there was.
on page 59.
Yeah, there was no change.
Okay.
The last meeting that this was discussed, there was just a request for clarification on what use of borrowed funds would mean. We
Okay, so
recommend no change.
You were not proposing to include that as a change.
No, we were just providing another example from a different charter.
Misunderstood. Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. 7-304.
I'd make a motion, we approve the proposed language, take out facsimile and put as permitted by law.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. And then, do you have that one, the next one, on transparency?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that?
Right over here.
Didn't- mine's not, I didn't bring it. Okay, so, on page 62, there's a proposal for adding a new chapter 5. It'd be, that talks about transparency. And just, it's very simple. It talks about, it's the council and the mayor getting together to, again, through an ordinance. This time it would establish a tax and debt dashboard for the purpose of providing transparent and comprehensive overview of the city's tax millages, assessments, and debt obligations. And it talks about, in terms of each one of those, like taxes, to make sure that just in addition to that 20 mil tax limit that we have, there's a lot of other taxes that are being assessed that we typically don't see, special assessments, things of that sort. And once you start looking at all of the taxes and debt, particularly the taxes, I think people will be very surprised to learn that they're paying a lot more than they thought. And I think for the public, I think it's an issue of transparency that they need to have to understand what the cost of this, to run the city is and what they're, actually paying for, to better understand things. And it may change their minds in terms of doing something and come out or advocating for something as well. But this would be a dashboard that shows all the taxes and then all the debt service, the bonds that we have, stuff like CSO, anything like that. The special millage that passed for the public safety, dealing with the new courts and the new fire halls and police department. That was a special assessment. That's not part of that 20 mil tax limit. So it's just a transparency thing. I think it's a good government piece. And I think we'd be one of the few cities that would actually do that. So I would ask that you support this. Commissioner Washington.
I'll move approval of this, but I think this is so important. I think people really don't know how much debt we are carrying. It's huge. I think we're already almost at our cap for millages. What are we, 19.46? I mean, we have nowhere else to go. And all this goes on property tax, and people complain about their property taxes, and they don't understand. Every time we vote something in like this, it goes on their property tax. So, and I think our property tax is 2.5 times the national average, and that's pretty darn high. So I think this is really important.
So did you move it?
I did.
Is there support? Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. So, are we getting close to being done? Article 9.
Okay, this memo starts on page 66. And what this does is go through each of the chapters in here. And so chapter 1, continuity of officers. We recommend removing this because it's no longer necessary. This section required some statement of what the qualifications are. Well, that's already been done. The ordinances are already in place. So they're really not, the 9103 is really not necessary, but leave all other provisions of the chapter as is. So for chapter 2, I just want to flip to my Article 9 so I have it in front of me here. So when we look at chapter 2 of Article 9, continuity and rights of legislation, this was just something, how many other people had to look up in the dictionary what cypre meant? I knew I would get asked. So cypre is a legal term that when you're talking about allocation of what's within a trust, if it can no longer be completed, the courts will decide based on this principle. So that's just giving you what that definition means. We don't think you have to change anything in this chapter 2. Chapter 3 for commencement in the new charter. So once this is, you submit it to the voters and it's approved, okay, well, when does it start? So under the Home Rule Cities Act, once a charter revision is approved by the voters, it takes effect either when the copies of the charter with the certified vote, which is done within 30 days of the election, are filed with the Secretary of State and County Clerk, or if a different effective date is specifically stated in the charter. And we've actually, and currently, what you have in your transition plan is this first option, that when it's, the revision is certified within 30 days. And some revisions have certainly done that. City of Caro is a recent example with a revision. The other option is you could specifically provide an effective date so that there's no having to calculate things. City of Detroit, for example, did that in 2012. So once it was submitted, they submitted their revision in a November election and just said their charter will be effective January 1, 2012. So in terms of the timing, when you go the first option, it can be kind of a little bit up in the air in terms of when things are certified and sent out. But generally, you're looking at like around sometime in December it would be effective. City of Detroit just said it's January 1. So it makes the effective date a little bit later, but it's a date certain. So certainly something you can look at. You don't have to change it as it currently exists. 9-302, first election under the charter. So there does have to be some, and I actually think you need to put a pin on this section until you deal with some of the other issues about what you may want to do with elections in terms of whether you're moving to an even, if there's any other discussion about you want to change anything else about commissioner processes, like that will all affect this issue. But we did identify an issue because how the revision is currently worded. You currently have staggered elections and you're moving away. Well, you need to develop a process of moving away from staggered elections, and how do you make that work with then implementing a fifth ward? So what we recommended was that in 2027, there will be 4 vacancies. So you've already approved this language. So in 2027, there will be 4 vacancies upon the council to be filled. 4 qualified candidates receiving the highest number of votes shall be elected to an office for 2 years. So you create For those who are up for election in 2027, just a 2-year term instead of a 4-year term, which then means in 2029, everybody's up, all the council members are up for that 2029 term. But then how does that play into your process for creation of that 5th ward? So what we did was we suggested that, consistent with the process for reapportionment, the election commission meets and prepares an apportionment plan for the 5 wards, and the city council adopts that apportionment plan within 120 days prior to the 2029 primary election. And then the effective date of representation of the new ward is the date set for taking office of the first council members elected therefrom. So the idea would be that you do not implement the 5th ward until 2029, so that, or that 2029 election, so that you are voting for that 5th ward right when you're establishing the non-staggered elections. Otherwise, it gets really difficult to determine. You're going to have an issue where you have somebody that's doubly represented. They could be represented by their old ward representative and then also represented by a new ward. So you have to figure out how to deal with that sort of double representation. And there's different methods that other legislative bodies deal with this in other states that deal with staggered terms, but we thought this was the cleanest, easiest way to deal with it, is to move away from the staggered elections and then implement your new ward in time for that 2029 election.
I have a question.
Commissioner Boyd.
I just have one question. What about going from 4 at-large to 2 at-large? What happens to those people?
So you're still going to have the elections that happen or occur with how it's already been provided in 2-101.3, is that you're going to have 4 vacancies to be filled. So you're still going to have, that all gets figured out in that 2-101.3 because of what is left open.
So we have 4 at-large now, and 2 are up in 2026. And so the 2 others that are slated for election in 2028, there'd be 4, so the people that are elected in 2026 would only serve a 2-year term. And then
Elected in 2026 to begin a term in 2027, correct, there'd only be a 2-year term.
2-year term instead of a 4-year term.
2027 is election.
Elections are on 5 years.
Or, yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Other question, Commissioner Down.
I will say that is, Commissioner Boyd, that's still a little unclear, because if there's 4, that could be 2 at large, 2 ward, and we're only taking 2 of them regardless. So they may go into a 2-year term that is basically all at large, theoretically, based on the language we approved, right?
Clerk Swope.
I think one thing that isn't clear is in 2027, and it might need to be part of the transition. I think the intent is that in 2027, it would be 2 at large and the 1st and 3rd ward. But I don't, in 2027. And then in 2029, it would be 5 wards and 2 at large. So, but I'm not sure that, I think we might need something in the transition, because I think that could be interpreted, because the way we said 4 vacancies, it's not clear what that is. So I think there needs to be part of the transition that it is that in 2027, the positions to be elected for 2-year terms are under the currently existing structure, and the new structure starts in 2029.
Will bring clarity to. Commissioner Boyd.
One more question. So we have, and I misspoke earlier by talking about a 2026 election, so we're talking 2025, 2027. So you've got 2 people, 2 at-large candidates today who will be up for election, and they will be elected to a 4-year term. And then in 2027, the 2 who are up that we'll elect two, and they will only serve a 2-year term. Is that fair? I'm just asking.
It's the fairest that it can be when you're dealing with staggered elections and trying to unstagger them. There is a fair amount of law across the nation that has supported this as a resolution to deal with the issue of reapportionment and staggered elections. It gets really complicated, and how different, and this happens most frequently in other states with their legislature, like California, for example, and they always have this issue in that when you reapportion, you could have districts totally, created anew or totally redrawn, and then you'll have issues of people that may have amount of time where they're voting for voting for two of their legislative representatives in a short amount of time, some that go a long time without voting for the legislative representatives. Sometimes some of these states just reassign people to a district that no one voted for them. So this gets into a very complicated area of the law when you're dealing with how to deal with these issues. And this, we believed in review of the existing alternatives, was the best way to deal with this issue in providing the most voice to people in sort of the least disruptive way.
Commissioner Washington?
Just very quickly, so all 4 of those vacancies will be 2 years, Ward 1, Ward 3, and both of the at-large. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. All right. One more section? Thought the
But to Commissioner Swope's, Clerk Swope's point, I do agree in the commission's discussion about this, it would make sense to add some additional language that specifying which of the 4 vacancies are up for reelection in the next election, and what that means, just to be clear about the at-large and the wards. Then, let's see, adoption of the charter. So the last item would be Chapter 4, adoption of the charter. So this is that you're submitting it to, and then it's the date of the election. So currently, it reads August 8, 1978. If the board is able to get this completed in time for the review, it would be November 4, 2025. If that's something that you are wanting to do at a different later election, obviously we'd have to modify that language, but clearly the current language of 1978 should be changed to what this, to the date of the election that this board is moving this toward.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Boyd.
I think that's fine, only I would change it to say, at the election on Tuesday, or by the election on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, because while it's our intention to put it on the ballot this year, we don't know for sure if it's going to go on the ballot this year. And as the chairman has said, if it goes down to defeat, we have another year to decide if we want to make any other changes or resubmit it to the voters. So I would argue that this is fine, but it should talk about the election day in 2026. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? All right, hearing none, let's go to page 69 and just go through Article 9 rather quickly. So 9-101 and 9-102 are being proposed to remain. Is there support for that? Moved and supported, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. 9-103, it's recommended that this be deleted from the charter. Is there a motion? It's moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes. Chapter 2, 9-201. And I think the entire 9-201, 9-202, 9-203, 204, and 205.
I'll make a motion to approve all of them.
All of them. All those in favor, or is there support? Moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, chapter is approved. Chapter 3, 9-301. Is
Chair.
be moved and supported.
I would like to actually make the recommendation from legal that we just do a January 1st of 2026, or whatever the next year is after this is done. I think that works well. I guess I would rescind that if we went mid-year cycle. Maybe we don't wait till the end of the year. Like if this didn't pass, we would just we would amend that to change it. Because although the 30 days seems good, you're right, that's dependent on everything being filed correctly, and just a hard start date seems easy. I could be
Support.
convinced otherwise.
Been moved and supported. So this is on 9-301. So it'd be, shall become effective for all purposes on January 1. And that would be 2026. Okay, does everybody understand the motion?
This is after the people, if the people vote yes, right?
Yes, so it'd be January 1 of 2026. It'd be vote this November. So it would read, except as otherwise specifically provided herein, this chapter, or this charter shall become effective for all purposes on January 1, 2026. With that in mind, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes. 9-302. Yeah, well, there's, down at the bottom of page 67, I think the recommendation is to delete the existing 9-302 and replace it with the language on page 67 at the bottom.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Question.
Yes.
Um,
Commissioner Anderson.
Is that the section where we talked about adding language about the 2027 election? So that it's clear that that election will be for wards 1 and 3 and the 2 at large for a 2-year term? That's not for that section?
Yeah, I think we have to go back.
That needs to be modified, but point one, if you look at 9-302, it says that the apportionment plan is 120 days prior to the 2029 primary election. So to the extent that you change it to an even election year, that would have to be updated.
Okay. So I'm so confused, but okay.
You're asking about my point that we need
Yes.
to clarify 2027, so would that go in this section? Do we need additional language to go in this section?
It needs to go somewhere in the charter, whether that's to clarify it under not 2-101.3 as it's been changed, or to put it somewhere in Article 9. It needs to be stated somewhere. I would be inclined to just put it in 2-101.3, but that needs to come back to the board.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Okay. So we made that addition.
Do you want to table that until we make a decision on the date?
I think it'll probably go back in the charter somewhere.
Oh, I'm talking about the proposed language that we just moved.
I think you would want to take the even year as one big thing
And then amend it
rather than
all.
having a bunch of hanging things out there.
Okay.
That's my recommendation.
Okay, so that motion stands.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. Chapter 4, submission to the electorate, there's a recommended change. Again, what was your language?
My suggestion was that it should say, be a vote of the qualified electors of the city of Lansing at the election by Tuesday, November 3rd, or say by Tuesday, November 4th. Tuesday, November 3rd is the election in 2026. I just don't like the notion that we're going to say we're going to present it to the voters on November 4th, 2025, because, one, we don't know, sitting here tonight, if that's going to come to be, and two, if the voters turn it down, which they may, then we have another year to decide what we want to do. Do we want to make changes and resubmit, or do we just want to walk away from it? Or it'll be our decision to make. But we're here until the end of 2026. And so I think that that should be reflected somehow. And Jasmine is saying no, so go right ahead.
Commissioner Anderson.
Sorry. I think that if it doesn't pass, we just revise it to the next election date. Yeah.
Madam Vice Chair. Jim.
Go ahead.
All right, so what we'll do is change, the motion is to amend by adding November 4th, 2025 in lieu of August 8th, 1978.
Correct.
With that in mind, is there support? Support. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. And then last question, 9-402, is there a motion? It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes. Okay, that's it for our work tonight. Yeah. So, in terms of future meetings, obviously, we'll have one next week on Tuesday. We should be able to put together a list of what's left. I think we're pretty close to being done, except for going through it a second time, just a wraparound. What I would like to get from everybody in writing, from everyone, any of the changes that, or sections, changes that you want to make as we do the second go-around, just so everybody is prepared and is ready to go. And hopefully, we'll start taking that up next Tuesday, those changes or those concerns. By, let's say, let's say Thursday by 5, so we can get it in the packet on Friday to everybody. I don't know, are we going to be able to get a red line version of the entire document containing these changes by Friday?
Considering that Emery is off the entire week,
Where is she?
they are, yeah.
So we probably will, obviously will not be able to get that. It'd be nice to have that document to work off of, but just,
We will strive for that.
okay.
Yeah, because she's kept a pretty good record.
They have,
yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
just really compiling it.
Yeah. So is everybody understanding what we're going to do? Okay. Yeah. If we need to. Yeah. I mean, yes, Commissioner Down.
So I don't want to get in violation, am I only sending a letter to you or to the whole, I don't want to break the rules?
No, you can send it to me.
It's a good
Commissioner
question,
I don't
Commissioner-
have my commission to know what, so.
Commissioner Anderson.
Did we want to possibly start that meeting earlier next Tuesday, or are we good with the 6:30 time? Just, again, putting it out there for conversation.
Yeah. Let's do this. I don't know if we can do this. Let's see how much we have left to do. I don't know, after going through tonight, what's left. And then maybe we can reach out, and that would be considered a special meeting if we do it earlier.
If you change the time, yes, I believe it would be.
So we'll have to give certain notice and everything like that. So we'll probably be in touch with everyone just to give notice that we're going to do it. Would people have certain times that they would be able to start earlier? No?
Not me.
We would have to check on the chambers. I know there are at least two
Oh.
council committees that meet, so I don't know how much earlier we could meet. I think there's a couple
Let's-
that meet on Tuesdays.
Let's pull the information together and we'll go from there. Appreciate that, though.
Could,
Just pull them all up.
Commissioner Lopez?
we could also go a little bit later too.
Yeah?
So,
Always like late nights. I'll be glad when this is over so I can get back to my Tuesday
We-
poker game instead of coming here every Tuesday. Yes, you keep having questions.
I have a question. Yeah, I had a lot of sleep last night, I guess. The budget, our budget, I just am curious, because I don't ever use my phone that you've given me, which is very kind of you. But I see that there's a lot of variety on the phone charges. I'm just curious why.
Good question.
I mean, they range us anywhere from $203 to $386, and I'm just kind of curious. I mean, why is somebody using their phone more than I am?
I'm not using
I have no.
I'm not using mine at all.
question.
Mine is turned off.
There was a period I wasn't
turned
using
in
my
mine.
phone, and they like literally just took it off the plan. There was no service on it.
Yes.
So they might be like doing that randomly as like removing people's service for not using their phone.
I turned my computer and my phone back in because I don't use them. So I shouldn't even be on there.
Okay. Other comments from commissioners? Better hurry.
Yeah, everybody's clear.
We're adjourned.